I almost didn't go to my 10-year reunion. Not because I had anything against the people I went to school with. I just had a feeling. The kind of feeling you try to talk yourself out of because it sounds crazy when you say it out loud. My friend Dana talked me into it. She said we'd stick together, drive up together, leave whenever we wanted. So I went. The reunion was being held at Hargrove Hall, a rented event space out in Westfield. The kind of town that still has gas stations with full-service pumps and diners that close at 2 in the afternoon. Dana and I got there a little after 8. The parking lot was already half full. We could hear music before we even reached the front doors. Inside, the venue had been decorated with photos printed on foam board. Class photos, yearbook images blown up to poster size. I remember walking past one near the entrance and doing a double take. My photo was there. Junior year, hair shorter than I wear it now. Slight smile, that shade of blue they always used for the background. Normal. Expected. But underneath it, on the small printed caption, the name read, Megan Holt. My name is not Megan Holt, my name is Jess Carver. I told Dana, she looked at the photo and looked at me and said, "That's definitely your picture." I figured it was just a printing error. Someone mixed up names in a spreadsheet. I let it go. We found the table with our name tags. I located mine. Jess Carver, class of 2014, little red lanyard, normal. I put it on and moved on. I fell into the rhythm of the night. Handshakes, hugs, the standard "what are you doing now?" and "oh wow, you haven't changed." I started to relax. Then maybe 40 minutes in, I felt someone touch my arm. I turned around and there was a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-30s maybe. Nice looking but tired around the eyes in a way I couldn't explain. She was holding a glass of white wine and staring at my name tag with an expression I couldn't quite read. She said, "Megan?" "You came. I told her I wasn't Megan. I'm Jess," I said, and I pointed to my name tag. She looked at it. She looked at my face. And she said, and I remember this exactly, "No, you're wearing the wrong one." I laughed it off. Said something like, "I don't think so." She smiled, but the smile didn't match her eyes. She said, "It's okay. I just wanted to say I'm glad you're here." And then she walked away. 15 minutes later, a man I didn't recognize came up to me. He looked at my face, then at my name tag, then back at my face. He said, "Are you lost?" I said I was sorry. He said, "You should have the other one." And he held out a name tag. White background, red lanyard, same format as mine. The name on it said Megan Holt, and below the name in smaller text, something that shouldn't have been there at all, in memoriam. I took it from him without thinking. He walked away before I could ask anything. I stood there holding a dead woman's name tag, in a room where 2 different strangers had just called me by her name. I looked around the hall. Really looked. The foam board photos near the entrance. I went back to check every single one. Every photo with my face had the name Megan Holt underneath it. Every single one. I went to find Dana and I couldn't. I moved through the crowd. I pulled out my phone and texted her. No response. The music kept playing. I was almost at the exit when someone stepped in front of me. Mr. Baird, my old junior year English teacher, apparently a chaperone for the evening. He looked at me the way you look at someone who's about to make a scene. He said very quietly, "We weren't sure you'd be here tonight, Jess. People kept saying Megan would come. It got a little confused." I asked him what happened to Megan Holt. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said there was an accident. 6 years ago. The girl in that yearbook photo was me, but there had been a data entry error the year the books were printed. My photo, her name. He said it like that explained everything. I found Dana near the bar. We walked out together. The parking lot was quiet. Cold for August. We were almost to the car when I heard it. Someone behind us, maybe 20 feet back. A woman's voice, low and certain. "Wait. I know you." I didn't turn around. Dana didn't either. We got in the car and drove away. I have no idea who spoke, but Megan Holt's name tag is still in my jacket pocket. I put it there that night and I haven't been able to throw it away. Every time I try, something stops me, some feeling I don't have a word for. I want to be clear about something before I tell you what happened. I am not the kind of person who spooks easily. I grew up in a house where the furnace made sounds like someone was moving furniture in the walls. I worked night shifts at a distribution warehouse for 3 years. I have driven empty stretches of highway at 3 in the morning without turning, the radio on. I am not easily spooked. But what happened at my 5-year reunion in October of 2022 scared me in a way I am still not done processing. The reunion was held at a restaurant called Carver's Grill out on Route 9, private backroom, open bar. I went with my friend Marcus, who I'd known since sophomore year. We got there around 7:30. The room held maybe 60 people and it was already getting loud. I recognized most of them, did the rounds, got a drink, standard reunion behavior. The thing that started everything was small, almost forgettable. I was standing at the bar waiting on my second beer when the man next to me said, without looking at me first, without any kind of introduction, "You've been having the recurring dream again, haven't you?" I turned to look at him. White guy, late 20s, medium build, brown hair cut short. I didn't recognize him. He was looking at the bottles behind the bar the way you look at something you've memorized. I said, "Sorry, what?" He said, "The one where you're back in the house you grew up in, but none of the rooms are in the right place. You get to where your bedroom should be and it opens into the backyard instead." I had never told anyone about that dream. Not Marcus, not anyone I dated, not a single person in my life. It was a dream I'd been having since my mid-20s. Always the same sequence. The hallway, the wrong door, the sudden cold of the backyard in the dark. Not once had I mentioned it out loud to another human being. I asked him how he knew that. He turned to look at me. He had normal eyes. That's the thing I kept coming back to later. There was nothing wrong with his eyes. He said, "You used to draw floor plans in the margins of your notebooks. I sat behind you in junior year biology." I thought about that. I did used to draw floor plans. A doodling habit. But I couldn't place him. I asked his name. He said Ryan. I asked his last name. He paused, the way someone pauses when they're deciding something, and said Tillerman. I didn't know a Ryan Tillerman. I excused myself and went to find Marcus. I told him what the guy said. Marcus got quiet. Then he said, "People don't just guess other people's recurring dreams." I went back to the bar half an hour later. Ryan Tillerman was gone. I found Marcus again and we were talking with a few people when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, another buzz. The notification. I stepped away to listen. The message was 23 seconds of silence followed by, and I am not exaggerating, the exact sound my childhood home made when the furnace kicked on. That mechanical shudder, the low hum, the click. I would know it anywhere. And it came from an unknown number, on a night I was surrounded by people who supposedly knew me. I asked 3 people if they remembered a Ryan Tillerman from junior year biology. None of them did. On the way out, I passed the sign-in table near the entrance. There was a guest log where people had signed their names. I scanned the whole column. No Ryan Tillerman. I went through the entire list twice. His name wasn't there. I drove home alone that night. I was 20 minutes out from the restaurant on a quiet stretch of Route 9 when my headlights swept over someone standing on the shoulder of the road. Just for a second. Standing still, facing the road. I told myself it was someone whose car had broken down. But the figure was wearing a jacket I recognized. Brown canvas, left side breast pocket. The kind with the snapped flap. I had a jacket exactly like that. I had donated it 2 years ago. I didn't stop. I kept driving. The road behind me, when I checked my mirror, was empty. I still get the dream. The hallway, the wrong door, the backyard in the dark. Except now, when I get to the door and it opens, there's someone standing in the backyard. He's always facing away from me. But I know the way you know things in dreams, that if I called out, he would turn around. I haven't called out yet. I'm not sure I want to know what face he'd be wearing. The first thing I need to say is that I have the photo. I still have it. I've looked at it hundreds of times trying to find an explanation. There isn't one. There has never been one. And I've stopped trying. My 15-year reunion was held in May. One of those evenings that can't decide if it's warm or cold. The kind where you keep putting your jacket on and taking it off again. The venue was a place called Meridian Event Center out in Calmore, about 30 miles from where we all graduated. 2 floors, catered dinner on the lower level, open bar on the upper. Nice place, nicer than I expected. I went alone. I'd planned to go with my friend Carla, but she backed out 2 days before with a stomach thing. I almost canceled. I was tired. The idea of small talk with 100 people I mostly barely remembered felt worse the closer it got. But I'd already paid, so I went. The first hour was fine, genuinely fine. I caught up with a few people, had 2 glasses of wine, started to feel like maybe this wasn't a waste of a Saturday. It was around 9:30 when the photographer came around. The event had a hired photographer, some guy with a Canon and a kind of bored professionalism about him. He got to my table and asked us to squeeze in. 6 or 7 of us, we smiled. He took the shot. He handed out little printed cards with the website where you could download your photo afterward. I pocketed mine and didn't think about it again until the next morning. I pulled up the site on my laptop and downloaded the table photo. And there I was, third from the left, smiling at the camera, but standing directly behind me, not part of our table, not in the group, not touching anyone, positioned in that narrow space between our table and the next one, was a figure I didn't recognize, a woman. Dark clothing, not looking at the camera, looking at me. I zoomed in. The image was good resolution and her face was mostly in frame. She was turned slightly toward me, her eyes fixed on the side of my head. Not the camera, not the room. Me specifically. I went through all 40 photos the photographer had posted. I found her in 2 others. Same dark clothing, same perfectly still posture. And in both photos, regardless of where I was in the frame, she was oriented toward me. I called Dominic, someone from my table that night. I asked if he remembered anyone standing behind us during the photo. He said no. I sent him the image. He was quiet for a long moment, then he said, "She's not in any of the other group photos. Only the ones you're in." I know that. I went back to the venue the following week. I told the manager I'd left something behind, just to have a reason to be there. I asked a staff member if they remembered anything unusual from the reunion. She looked at me carefully and said, "Actually, yeah, we had an issue that night. Someone had gotten into the building early, before the event started. When the setup crew arrived at 5 o'clock, someone had already been in the upper bar area. No sign of forced entry, nothing was damaged, but a chair had been moved to face the window, and on the table next to it there was a glass. Just a glass. Like someone had been sitting there looking out. The event didn't start until 2 hours. Someone was in that building, in that room, 2 hours before any of us arrived. I moved apartments 3 months after the reunion. New neighborhood, new address, no forwarding details listed anywhere I could think of. First week in my new place, I was unpacking boxes in the living room, when I noticed something on my windowsill I couldn't account for. Glass. Clean. Empty. Like someone had set it there to hold a place. I've never found an explanation for it. Some things don't resolve. Some things just sit there on the windowsill of your new apartment like a message written in a language you already know how to read, even though you don't want to. She's still out there, whatever reason she had for standing behind me in that photograph in that building. In the dark before any of us arrived, she hasn't stopped wanting it. I still live alone. I check my windowsills every night before I go to sleep. I haven't seen the glass again, but I don't think that means it isn't coming back. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to subscribe for more true horror every week. New stories drop every Friday night.